Hello everybody, welcome to Enliven Global Media. I'm your host, the one and only Mr. LP, Steven Sykes, and thank you so very much for Leader Pizza for hosting us and Crossing Coleman Group for supporting us. And I have a wonderful guest that has a lot of wonderful things going on with herself, her business, and just so many other different things. And I'm going to let her say her name, the lovely.
I am Miss Jasmine Andrews, the author of Sullied Bride.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well.
So, it's now morning time. You're enjoying yourself here in Richmond, Glen Allen area?
Yes, it's well, I got through the rain, so yes, praise the Lord.
Not a problem. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
I'm from Chesapeake, Virginia, the rural part.
Uh-oh. How you find your way over here?
Well,
I'm sorry.
well, I went to school at Hampton University, and you invited me here. So I was like, see, if I was still in Chesapeake, I was like, I don't know, this is a little far. But from Hampton, it's just a little bit of a jump.
I understand. How was life growing up for you as a young adult in Chesapeake, Certified 7 area and things?
It was a good childhood. Like, it was basically like kind of living in the middle of nowhere, where you see farms, you see people riding their horses down the road. I mean, it's built up a lot since then, but it was always kind of like I would be sitting in there waiting for somebody to come over, you know, waiting for someone to come see me. And then when I was reading the Bible, like, I kind of identified with that, with Jacob going to the well and meeting Rachel there, because it was kind of like a country lifestyle. And I'll just kind of picture it like, so eventually somebody's going to come here while I'm out working in the yard, and like we're going to, you know, be in love like Jacob and Rachel.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. You know, love stories from the Bible always works. And things, so that's something that's very positive. So church played a big part in your life growing up.
Well, I mean, not really. In some ways, it was. I identified more with actually what was written in the Word than what was actually going on within the building.
Awesome.
Yes.
So what other things do you do? I see you're an author, and we're going to definitely get into that, but what's some other things you do around the Chesapeake area and so forth?
Well, I'm a composer and I am a filmmaker.
Awesome. What made you get into that? Was it between something inspired that you always did as a young adult kid growing up, or was this a college?
It was, I wrote a lot and I just visualized stories a lot of the times, and I just started picking it up because I was influenced by stuff like Star Wars, Indiana Jones.
So you like stories, but with action and a lot of drama. Yes. and other things going into it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so no problem. So your next film, I get to star in it?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. All right, no problem. I get to be the love interest.
Of course.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. I want a good scene. All right, but so when you're writing all these different things come out and so forth, and you wrote the composing of not just the movies but music as well.
Yes.
What's your favorite type of music, and what led you to that as well?
I would say film scores, because it was kind of like I could identify with it, because you have like John Williams with Star Wars, you have James Horner with Braveheart and all of that other stuff, and it was like music separately could inspire the stuff I was writing, as well as just enhance the film that I was watching. So
that's one thing I've always talked about. I say we don't have now. When you see from this, early days of film, the 70s, 80s, and I think we lost it right in the late 90s, early 2000s. Music fit the film.
Yes.
And I want to say the 70s, 80s, and 90s. More so the 80s and 90s. You saw a lot of music go with the film. Like, you don't envision Rocky without the song.
Right.
You don't envision a whole bunch of different movies, and you look at a lot of the black exploitation movies in the 70s, and a lot of the movies, African American films in the 90s. All these had big scores.
Yes.
Boomerang, I remember Coming to America. You saw a lot of artists come out from there. What happened?
I think, well, there's a lot of speculation on this, but I think what happened was people just started identifying with beats as the only aspect of music, and there's 6 elements of music that are encompass an entire song, and you can't just ignore the other 5. So I believe there was a concerted effort. And then also, you can't really write a good story or score a good story unless there's actually a character behind it, because you can't just write a character-driven score when you don't have real characters. And I think some of the movies we have out today are very superficial. They have just one-dimensional characters, and it doesn't really go anywhere. So what can be inspired of that?
Well, you can also see it, and you're right. I believe in that because a lot of movies, in some movies, you do need the one-dimensional, the flat, and then you got the round characters. You know, if your villains are your villains, you know,
Yeah.
or things of that nature. I hope that one day we can get back to that, and things maybe we can drive the driving force towards that.
Yes, that's what I'm looking to do.
Okay, not a problem. So now you married your writing of your stories and the music. Do you feel that one, sometimes when you're putting it together, one is stronger than the other, you got to bring one up or take one down a little? Or
I go through periods of, like, sometimes I'm just writing, sometimes I'm doing music. And how I can tell whether I've written something effective is if I start writing music for it. So if I can't have a theme with the music, and then I know that, like, no, this story is not complete because I can't basically translate the character into a melody.
is it mostly just the score, or you do the composing of the lyrics and everything else, and the voice and all that?
Just the score.
Just the score. Okay, not a problem. Because I was looking to say, cool, I can get myself a song, but no, can't do it. So now you transition all of that, and you're still going through it, but then you're adding a third element into this, in terms of your author, in terms of your writing. What got you to start writing books?
Well, I started writing when I was a teenager, and I was writing fiction, which was my primary focus. But then, like, one day I was really upset, and I started writing this essay about stuff that was going on with women being abused in churches. And then the essay turned into another essay, and then another, and then I looked up and realized I had an entire book on what was going on with women in the congregations. So this is actually my first published work, which is nonfiction, which shocked to me, but really just says, seek ye the kingdom of God first, and all things will be added unto you. So I figured that this is what God wanted me to do, is get this message out first, and then, focus on the other stuff that I've written before.
One of the groups we work with heavily is Box Cutter. We talk about the levels of domestic violence, not just physical, but just a lot of the mental, emotional, the financial, the spiritual. There's all these different levels of domestic violence, both directly and indirectly. No matter what, we've all been exposed to it at some point. And one of those things that we don't get to talk about too often is the abuse in church. We've seen these videos where you see these pastors, because people are so in love. I feel that sometimes they're so in love with the pastor instead of the Bible and the message and things of that nature. You see some people say, well, that's my pastor, and all this stuff, and they get defensive and then there are those who take that level of respect and abuse that power.
Yes.
And you've seen them where you see these crazy stories where someone will tell them not to wear underwear in the front pew of the church and doing all these other different things, and everybody must give me this amount of money or show up here for some just foolishness. What do you say to a lot of I can't just say young women, but what do you say to a lot of women going through that?
Well, I basically just tell them, like, don't defer your authority. That, yes, you can learn from another person, but learning from that person does not make them above you in any type of way, any spiritual context. So the pastor has to be in line with what God's word actually says in order for you to even be following them. It's not the other way around. Because I've seen them teach stuff about spiritual authority, as they call it, and they say that even if the spiritual authority is wrong, you're supposed to follow them because they're in authority.
Exactly.
That's not true. That's a lie. That's something
very much
that was invented by people who want to extort you out of money and take advantage of you and basically start owning you like they're your slave or you're their slaves or something.
Yeah, see, and that's something never I'm going to deal with that at all. So the title of your book is called Sullied Bride. Tell us a little bit about it. You told us about it as a collection of stories and things of that nature, but tell us a little bit more about this book and things, and why people, some of the different elements that people had to go through to help bring this book about.
Right. Well, Sullied Bride, Yeshua is coming back for a bride. And as you know, I'm of a romantic disposition, so of course that's something that I would look forward to. But then I see women that I know personally, and I've just witnessed it over and over again, where they've become a bride and then they are treated like with scorn and disrespect. And nobody really wants to be a bride because that's the woman's position, and then if the woman is in a subordinate position, then what's to look forward to about being a bride?
Exactly. One of the things in the chapter, and I was doing some research, one of the things is to mention indecisive, which is something that I don't like when people stereotype and say that's a common woman's trait, but
right.
No. If you're a human, we're all prone to indecisiveness, both men, women, even animals, and things. But tell us a little bit about Esther and indecisiveness.
Right. So people think Esther was indecisive because when she went up to the king to save her people from genocide, she didn't just say, hey king, you issued an order and it's going to kill all of my people, you should do something about it. She didn't say that, not because she was indecisive, but because there was a power imbalance. So when women come up and they're not direct about what they want, it's not because they don't know what they want, it's because there is consequences for being direct as a woman, because she's called certain things if she's just very direct about what she wants.
Yeah, that's I don't like it when women, because it's a fine line here, because I think sometimes when we got into this whole aspect of to bring up a little bit of the political side of it, the women's liberation, the women's lib movement, and for whatever reason, some took women's lib as a thing as like, I'm going to be dominant and emasculate of men, and I can be dominant and push over weak women. And part of that because of how men in general have treated women over the years. So it was more of this, I'm going to get my power back. But that's not what it's about.
No. And
everything else. And that's where this helps a lot of women, I think, when it comes into that, because you can be dominant, reassured, and confident, but that don't mean you have to be the bee in the room or whatever and be rude to someone.
Right, right. Because a lot of what happens is you have women fighting for the right to vote. Mm-hmm. That was part of the women's liberation. Right. And before women had the right to vote, the men who were stifling women for vote felt like women were equal. Exactly. So when women start talking about equality, then that will put fear in someone who thinks that equality means stopping somebody from voting, because then they're going to say, well, next thing they're going to stop men from voting. And it's because people don't know what equality is. They really don't. Like, if we're sitting here and I have a serving of mashed potatoes and then you have 2 servings of mashed potatoes, that doesn't mean we're not equal, because you're bigger than me. We actually are equally getting full.
Equal rights, I have a shirt that says equal rights for you and I doesn't mean it's less for you, it's not high.
Yes.
And the same thing here, it's just that you're bigger. Heck, there's people smaller who eat 10 of those supplements.
Right, because some people go out and run. Now, I don't understand them, but if you do that, like, good for you. You eat more than me, but yeah, exactly.
You put away a bunch of food, don't you? Don't come on, say that. One of the I come to your house, I'm gonna get about 5 plates of food. One of the aspects in this and that you cover in great details is the covenant of rape.
Right.
And everything else. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the covenant of rape basically is this feeling that men have a right to dominate the woman in every aspect of her life, and it's either a physical rape or she's being raped spiritually.
And that's a lot. Mental and spiritual rape, I think, happens more than the physical rape.
Right. Because it starts with just the perspective of what it is to be a woman walking out. Like, once I was on my porch, on my property, minding my own business, painting my porch yellow, and some guy rides by and shouts out of his car window, "Girl, what's up that skirt?" And it's this immediate harassment. It made me feel awful. Now, he's all the way down the street because he's riding by. But the fact that he felt entitled to harass me while I'm on my own personal property, minding my own business, completely unsolicited, like, that's a covenant of rape. And that's the type of stuff that really 99% of women have experienced, that type of harassment just almost every day stepping out their door or even in their house.
It's sexual harassment.
Yes.
And it makes it very bad for those who are being disrespectful. Hello, and you're thinking that person that yelled at you.
Right.
And it's wrong. Did you get his name and the license plate number or anything?
No, because he was riding by really fast. So, I mean, and that's that fly-by, so it happens, and by the time you even realize what's going on, they've already passed on and nothing can be done about it. So if I were to bring up a random movie, Braveheart, if you think about the scene where the girl was being harassed by the soldiers, and what did he say? Can I help you with that? It looks heavy.
Exactly.
And so when a guy's being polite saying, can I help you with that being heavy, it translates to, well, depending on how he says it, you know, it's clearly harassment because that guy was clearly trying to rape her, which he did try to. And then, of course, the movie continues. But that's what women go through pretty typically. So if you were trying to bring that before a court, this guy came up to me and said, that looks heavy, can I help you? Now you look like a crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what the covenant of rape is, where you know what they mean by it and you know what's going on, but you can't really do anything about it because it's ingrained in the culture to allow this type of harassment to persist.
As a woman, as a filmmaker, and an author and a composer, you see it more now a little bit. And maybe there was a time, maybe in the 50s for a brief moment, but you see it definitely now. Women slowly but surely getting the respect they see in the movies. You see, there was a Wonder Woman TV show. You see the movie coming out. You're seeing more women involved. There's no more the damsel in distress. Are you familiar with the phrase "women in refrigerators"?
No.
Okay. There was a Fortune comic book where they had a woman being involved, and basically she was found head in a refrigerator, and it was always this damsel in distress in comic books and fiction and authors and stuff of that nature that they were trying to get by. As a woman writing this book, and also being inspired with the writing and the filmmaking that you do, how is this transitioning into the next level for you?
Right. It's emboldened me a lot because I didn't used to be this confident, and my mother laid hands on me, gave me confidence, and it's just been pushing forward because to be a director, you have to direct people, and you don't want to have that old stereotype sticking on you that, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't be telling people what to do, or maybe the man should be handling it. Like, no, because this is the vision that's been given to me, and I can direct people, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're dominating over them. You're just leading them to complete the vision. Following
instructions. I think, and no disrespect for your grandmother, I think not only that, but I think also when you ask and pray for confidence and courage, God puts opportunity for you.
Right, because it doesn't happen overnight. Because like laying hands on is just turning the ground over. Because it happens with, now, like you said, God provides the opportunities, and then what do? You have to act on it. So take that first step.
And God uses people in positive ways, such as your mother, and help, like you said, turning this dirt over and things of that nature. What does, I'm a woman in politics, okay? You've seen Esther, you saw Ruth, you've seen the other different women in the Bible that had a lot of influence in the political world. Some good, some for the bad. What do you say, how can this woman, I'm a young woman trying to come up in the political field and get involved, how is this book going to help me?
Well, it's going to help because even though we have separation of church and state, which is good, by the way, because you don't want crazy religious people burning you as a witch.
Which they still try to do these days.
Yes, because I mean, someone accused me of witchcraft, which is...
What?
Yes, but
okay.
Anyway, before we get into that...
We will get that story. Okay.
Religion still plays a role in politics in the way people are shaped, because you don't even feel like you can run in politics if someone's telling you that women shouldn't be leaders. Because one of the scriptures in Isaiah that people misuse is that scripture that says your leaders will be women. And so people think that, yes, well, women will inherently lead you astray. But that's not what it's talking about. It's talking about people being led by their sexual desire for women, and that your leaders are your sin, and that's what's leading your life rather than you following God. And in the Bible, there are clear female leaders like Deborah, who was a judge. So God's not going to contradict his own word. So it's those idolatrous women that are the leaders that are the problem. It's the woman that completely is submitted to evil that is the wicked leader. So a woman in politics just has to recognize that God does ordain women in positions of authority, and to just move forward boldly and just stand her ground.
Exactly. What is there truly, if that's the case, is there truly a separation of politics and religion, church and state? Because you see a lot of people don't want to vote unless you were a certain religion or if you're a certain part, or when you make decisions, and you got to make the decisions for a group of people, your constituents, but you're also grounded, or hopefully you're grounded by humility and morally, spiritually. So technically, is there, on paper we say that, but technically, is there really a separation?
Yes, it is, because separation of church and state means that the state is not enforcing a religion.
Oh.
So when you see Muslim countries, that is a state-run religion, because Sharia law, that is what the law is in a state-run religion. So if you walk outside without hijab, then the state-run religion has the right to execute you, or throw acid in your face, or rape you, and that is state-run religion. Now, there are some things, obviously, that are in conflict with the Bible that people do that we might not necessarily approve of, but we don't have the right to execute people for that. It just means that the state is not going to enforce the word, which is, I don't really like to get overly political when I talk about things, because when Israel wanted a king, God saw it as evil.
Okay.
Because he said, I'll be your king. But the people cried out for a king anyway. That's what they wanted. So God gave it to them. And he said, if you have a king, he's going to tax your property. He's going to take your daughters as servants and cooks, and your sons into the army, and to serve him. And when you're going to cry out, I'm not going to hear you. So the issue with politics has to be, either you're going to follow God's word or you're not. So you can't force people to do it in the law. So either you're going to do what God says and what's written in the book, or you won't.
I agree, and I have no problems here speaking, because our phrase is we tell the truth. And that's, whether it's good, bad, or different, we definitely tell the truth. When you there's a lot of young girls out there going through it today, and we say this for every generation, but a lot of young women are going through it no matter what. And I fear, well, I pray that it's not worse, but for a lot of cases it is worse than ever in history. We have women who are being bullied.
Yes.
We have women who are doing the bullying. We have more and more women taking advantage of other women, and lack of better word, pimping them out towards other women and guys. Mm-hmm. You have women feeling that they need to emasculate and dominating, and now we have more women being involved in sports. So happy for, but then some are abusing them for it.
Right.
How can what aspect, now to me the whole book, but what aspect in particular of this book and in your message overall can help a young preteen who's going through it or about to go through to jump into the high school and deal with this madness? Well,
the primary message is just, really don't defer your authority. And I say that over and over again, but deferring your authority has to do with, if someone's bullying you, don't believe what they say. Now, you don't have to tolerate it. Now, something does need to be done about the bullying, but don't internalize it. Because if someone's coming up and saying your hair is nappy, or your hair is too straight, you're too yellow, you're too black, whatever it is they're bullying you about, don't internalize it, because that's what God made you as. So if your hair is naughty, then you have naughty hair. If you straighten your hair, then you have straight hair. If you put in some hair, look, you paid for it, that's your hair. So it's more along the lines of accepting yourself. Like, I use the story with Adam and Eve a lot, because when it says your desire will be after your husband, he will rule over you, that's a curse. And when you desire that acceptance from somebody else, that's what's making them rule over you. So people can say anything about you, But if you don't desire that person, then they can't rule over you by their bullying.
Insecurity, and also the fulfilling, wanting to be accepted, like I said.
Right.
Because we have a lot of women who are looking for that acceptance from society, especially of parents, or in other situations, possibly their father. And they seek out all these different things. And we tend to say our children, we always say our father's not being around is going to affect the boys, but it also affects the women in a lot of different ways. And you see this going on now.
Right. And I think being affected by it kind of makes that, it sets the standard that she feels like she needs a father. Like, if you don't have a father in your life, if you go and seek one out, that's what the real problem is. And it's kind of like, especially in church, you have pastors who say, yeah, because a man, a young boy, he needs a man to show him how to be a man. And now that's teaching the child underhandedly not to respect his mother who is present. That feel like whatever she does isn't complete because she doesn't have a man with her.
Because there's always an aspect, you know, you can always believe that even if you have both parents,
Right.
it's an aspect of just placing positive influences around you, powerful forces, not necessarily to make them do or idolize you or do the things that you're doing, but just to help show what happens when you make sound decisions. Thank God that's what our children are missing, and then frankly our adults are missing.
Yes.
On a continual basis.
Because when we talk about covenant of rape, Dinah, who was the daughter of Jacob, the patriarch who I was talking about, she had both parents. She had Leah and Jacob, her father, but her father never blessed her. And he didn't even count her as a child. So even having a father in the home can still be detrimental because he is harboring these misogynistic views in him, and essentially it passes on to the girl that way. So it's, if you have a father, that's good. But if you don't, then you have a father in heaven who is really going to take care of you. And it's not even about having a man take care of you. It's just about not letting that feeling of lack rule over you.
Exactly. It's not even just so take care of each other. It works, gotta work together.
Right.
In a whole lot of different ways. So now, and having this book and things, what's the next step go for you? This book came out when?
In February.
February this year. Okay. So we a couple of months in. How has this book opened doors?
Well, it's a lot because I've been going out and doing different stuff with the radio and media and getting the message out, which is really not easy because people have been run into the ground, blame the woman. The last time a man listened to a woman, look what happened. And this is actually shifting the accountability to show Adam's part in the sin. And this has been an uphill battle, but I know that the Lord has been preparing me for this my whole life. So I know it's something that I can fulfill and I can do. And the next step is to just keep going, keep getting the message out, and then, of course, finish the next book and delve into fiction and everything else.
Trying to get people to understand that it takes two to tango, and then not put the dominant thing on the woman. It is very difficult because not only you have men, but you also have women.
Yes, yes.
That's fighting with this, and then you having those who are who choose to not identify themselves as a gender as well, who are fighting these principles on a daily level. How did you feel as a woman, coming up and doing all these wonderful things and then being a leader in your community in so many different ways, seeing women being put down in a political way?
I mean, it felt really awful, but I took it personally because I feel like sometimes when people put it into politics, it's a form of scapegoating. Because like I was saying, that guy who was riding down the street, I was in the neighborhood, obviously, because the street I live on is not one that's connected to anything large. I took it to the point where people want to make it an issue when they have a political agenda behind it, but they don't want to make it an issue when it's their grandson who's guilty of doing it.
All right. I look at it as, I find it horrible, but I looked at it as a way of empowering in terms of that. Obviously, they need to get the message.
Yes.
Both men and women and child, they need to get the message and understand what your actual role is, and things. And this is also when you try to get involved in you using societal ways to define what you're supposed to do as a gender versus what he has extended for you.
Right.
Your divine destiny, divine, whichever way you want to say it. What's your intentions for you? And people will tend to go use it in the wrong way. I think it should be used politically because in a way because it helps show that we are all. Last I checked, we're the only ones here on this planet. So everyone want to make a run to Mars, but I'm like, let's fix what we got going on here first before we tear up somebody else. And let's get the fact that let's fix our issues with women in society and media. Because I'm tired of seeing every day someone with scandals, a shot or beaten up. Then the guy, to me, and I can't speak for everybody, but to me the guy is always taking a cheap road out, and then he shoots himself or does what he can so he can get shot by the cops and bless you and do all these other different things. So it's I'm tired of seeing women getting abused. I'm tired of not seeing women being treated with respect. I'm a big supporter of women in sports. I say that women need to get the same amount of attention in sports as men do. I get fussed at a lot because women don't dunk, women don't do this. It doesn't matter. All those things are superficial in the end. It's the quality of the play and the team. The same values and things that you see, quote unquote, getting men, you can say be used and applied in a lot of positive things for women. And sometimes people don't see that. And it's just a mindset change. Right. Just like when it came to women voting, not having children working into a certain age or child labor laws. All these things are just a mindset change.
Yes, it is. It takes, just like I said, a mindset. So if we want to make it political, I think it would probably behoove people more to go to their city council meetings or go and talk to their delegates, because it starts from the bottom up. Because if you're trying to take down a pyramid, if you knock off the top of the pyramid, some other pharaoh's just going to come up there. That's not going to help. If you take out the base of the pyramid, the whole thing falls.
It's a foundation.
So stuff like, if we want to boycott, protest, we should protest the fact that if a little girl goes missing in Hampton, a little black girl, then the local media should be covering that. And people should make a point to bombard the local media and call 10 on your side, whoever it is, and just say, this girl is missing. I want 24-hour broadcasts are just going on about that. Because you say Natalie Holloway, everyone knows who that is. And why isn't that? Because
we made it tens of 15, 20 Lifetime movies and all the other stuff, the scales before and afterwards, made up mysteries of, aliens abducted, all these other different things off of one person. And because she was a little, child prom queen or whatever the issue was. So we need to change the focus of that. As a African American woman, how is this scene being played out for you?
Well, the message I just like to say, I don't discriminate,
But I'm saying that as a level of we don't have enough women of color doing this. That's what I'm saying.
Right. I found a lot of support among other women of color. And the whole thing is just, let's come together and let's just all work towards a common goal. Because, again, like I was saying, I appreciate who I am as a person. And I want people to not focus on the things that they're dividing us. Because if we make it just a black issue, then it'll limit what we're doing. And we can't just make it a white issue. We can't just make it even just a women's issue, even though that's the primary target audience, because the men have to come up and respect the women too. They have to.
This is a book both men and women need to read.
Yes, definitely.
I hope to get more of these on the metros and people reading 9 to 5 of the day to work and what have you. So you're touring, we're getting all this done, we're going to get a movie made out of this with a score?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so how can people get in contact with you and they want to buy Sullied Bride and what have you? And it's not, again, this is not about just being a bride, it's to encompass so many different things.
Right.
How can people get in contact with you?
Well, my email address is in the back of the book.
Okay, but for those who don't have the book right now, they're holding it with me, and they say, Steven, I want to email the copy of the book or buy it online. How can I do it?
So you can get a copy of Sullied Bride on Amazon.com, or you can get a copy at Barnes & Noble.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And what does the rest of 2017 have in store for you?
I don't know. I have a whole agenda for a lot of big stuff that I'm working on, so just filmmaking and finishing up the next book and building up the women in my community so they don't have to be a Sullied Bride. Because at the end of the book, you were no longer a Sullied Bride.
There you go. And your next movie coming out? Or when you're acting in one?
Well, see, I try to avoid actually being I am not an actress. Like, I've slipped in a couple.
See, there you go.
Yeah, but it's
you have it in you. You just don't want it. You're just trying to stay behind.
No, I can play moderate roles, but no, I respect acting as a craft. So it's like it takes a little more than just kind of walk in front of the camera. But anyway, yeah, working on the next movie and everything else.
Okay, not a problem. Well, and say your email address for everybody.
Jasmine D Andrews at gmail.com.
Spell that for people.
Jasmine, JASMINE, DEANNE, Andrews, ANDREWS at gmail.com.
Awesome, because we see these names spelled in so many different ways these days. I gotta make sure. Yes. So, Ms. Andrews, I thank you so very kindly for coming on here and coming out and spending time with us. We appreciate you very much, and we need to get this to be a #1 seller.
Yes.
And things, and get on Today. After me, I expect you to be on the Today show somewhere, and we keep on going.
All right.
Thank you so very much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. And thank you so very much for Leader Peace, across the Coleman Group, Commonwealth Gemological Laboratory, and everybody else for supporting us. I thank you very kindly. This is Enliven Global Media. We'll see you soon. Have a blessed day, everybody.